All right, Gearheads, welcome to the show. We just watched Max Verstappen win the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix. This is John Massengale sitting in the studio with Jonathan Green, Les Kaiser. We have Bob Varsha over Zoom, and momentarily we'll have Chris Medland joining us from Barcelona. All right, gentlemen. Bob Varsha, let me start with you. What did you think of this crazy race?
We lost him.
Well, I think this race, more than any other one we've seen, had a little bit of everything. You had great drives. Some teams suffered heartbreak. Some teams came forward. Personally, I think Sergio Perez should have won this race. I mean, I understand the whole team orders thing. I know why they do it. But for Perez to be called upon 3 times to let his world championship holding teammate, Max Verstappen, come through. Max gave him, thanks, mate. You're a great teammate, all that kind of stuff. But how'd you like to be negotiating Perez's next contract, which is pretty much a process that's beginning right now?
Yeah.
And then you lay that on the table. 3 times I was told to let the other guy buy. I sacrificed win. I did it. I want a raise. And I want my race car.
Yeah.
But great drives, a great 1-2 for Red Bull. Great drive by George Russell and for Lewis Hamilton, came from way back and hauled his way up there. Carlos Sainz went off and on and managed to finish in the 4th spot. His teammate Charles Leclerc had it all wrapped up until what was apparently a Ferrari engine problem. Now, we talked in our pre-race show. I raised the issue of Valtteri Bottas losing a Ferrari engine in his Alfa Romeo on Friday. Now we had Zhou Guanyu in the other Alfa, maybe an engine problem. We don't know quite yet. Leclerc's problem apparently was engine related. So I'm wondering what's going on at the engine shops in Maranello right now. And yesterday in our production meeting, I talked about the fact that I thought maybe they were twisting those Ferrari power units a little bit harder to deal with the newfound speed from the Red Bulls and now from Mercedes. That's a question I'd really like to hear Ferrari's answer to.
Yeah,
we got issues across the board with the top 3 teams. Think about it. Mercedes at the end there. When's the last time you've heard a team radio that says DNF risk? Slow down. You don't hear that very often.
Yeah,
so they
to
had
both of them.
Yeah, to both cars. They both had water leaks. It's always fascinating how
temperature related. Yeah.
Well, when you have a problem, how it's about to happen to the other car. It's amazing that the science and tolerances. But Jonathan, we had Red Bull having issues. So you've got Red Bull issues with their, it's different from week to week. So Verstappen wins another race that he either starts the race and wins or doesn't finish. He doesn't do anything in between.
Yeah.
All these mechanical issues.
Yeah, and it's a consequence, I think, of the new rules and the fact and the new cars that they're still betting them in. Mercedes clearly have stepped forward of the upgrades. I mean, I asked the question at the beginning of the show, is this the day we say that they join the fight? And the answer is yes. And I think it's going to be one of the most open seasons. And when I relish the thought of Austin in October, because it's just going to be wide open. You can tell me different, but I think it's going to be wide open. There'll be still 4 drivers going for the title.
Oh, yeah, I agree completely. And among the other heartbreak stories we should mention was Haas, who had both cars in Q3. They started in the top 10. Kevin Magnussen had his collision with Lewis Hamilton on lap 1, and I thought that was really Kevin's fault.
A little bit, yeah.
But he and Mick Schumacher finished 14th and 17th. So not a day that the Haas team is going to remember fondly in terms of, getting the best out of the potential that they had on the starting grid.
Yeah, a couple things on that. I noticed when Hamilton and Magnussen came together, that Hamilton's car was pushing a little bit, Bob. It was just a little understeer. Yeah. So is that Hamilton going too fast into that corner? I don't know. I think that was probably the right call, saying just racing incident. But what do you think?
Well, I think Kevin, as I recall the incident, Kevin was almost at mid-track. I mean, he wasn't anywhere near the left side verge to make sure that you didn't have a first lap type of incident that he and Hamilton had, just because of crowding and over exuberance and all that kind of thing. You know.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, when I see somebody when a car's pushing, it's like, okay, you've gone too fast. When you, especially in that situation, when you're side by side like that. But you know, think of and looking at Schumacher not getting in the points. Same thing with Schumacher and Bottas. Both ran 2-stop strategies, which the Bottas said it on the radio. This is obviously not the right strategy. So if both those guys had run 3-stop strategies, maybe that would have been it. You know, especially with Hamilton having cooling issues, then he could have easily ended up ahead of Hamilton, and then Schumacher
With
maybe into the points. Yeah.
Anybody want to guess how many total pit stops we saw today?
Go on.
55.
Wow.
That's a lot.
When was the last time we saw 55 pit stops in a race that wasn't, you know, a wet, dry affair?
Wow.
Interesting. Well, I'm kind of watching for some feeds or alerts. I'm curious. So if Mercedes was leaking coolant fluid, realize how critical we are in having a liter of fluid and all the weight and all of the things in the cars. You know, at 8 pounds a gallon, if there's much of a leak going on, they could easily lose. You know, I don't know what the full capacity is,
Could
but
they be underweight?
some of these radiators have. I mean, some of these have a dozen radiators on the car, so should be interesting. That may come into play and impact the results.
Scrutineering, when they throw that car on the scale.
Mark Priestley made a good point on BBC 5 Live saying, you know, if it's a water leak, what is it going to do long term to that engine unit, which could become critical as the season goes on.
Yeah, anytime you get an engine hot in your road car or any car, you think, okay, did you just shorten its life? So yeah, exactly.
And it was both cars.
Man, there's so much to talk about in this race. There were so many twists and turns. And right before we went on air, I said, okay, who's your driver today? And there could be, what do we decide? There could be a potential of 5 or 6 drivers that you could.
Yeah, I changed mine halfway through.
Yeah, because so you've got Verstappen who won with broken DNS, Hamilton who came from the back, Alonso who came up, I don't know how many places, Perez giving up the position, George Russell who looked crazy
really
fast.
Good and did some great driving.
When at one point Russell was looking so fast, especially against Verstappen, I was thinking, is Russell maybe the fastest driver on the grid right now?
Some people would argue.
You could argue. It's a little early because the cars are not equal yet, but they're a lot closer than they were. So, man, this was tons going on.
For me, Hamilton was the best drive. I mean, when you look what happened to Magnussen and then you see where Hamilton got to, they said 8th. You remember, he said, hey, guys, let's go get some sangria or whatever. Well, he didn't, but he said, you know, do we save this engine? If that was at about, you know, just after his own incident. So he was already ready to throw in the towel, and the team said, no, there's a possible 8th here.
Yeah.
So well, if Lewis was the driver of the day, I'd give a tip of the hat to George Russell as defensive driver of the day. I thought some of those moves he was throwing on Max Verstappen, weaving down the front straightaway, were kind of sketchy.
Bob, would you give your vote to Perez, though? I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of sacrifice deserves, you know, attention. He outdrove Max. He had to keep letting him by.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, and when Max comes on and says, thanks to my teammate, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right word here. It's like, you know, that it's not really, I mean, he may be sincere in the moment, but it's like, you know, that you hate team orders. Always, I hate.
I've always have, yeah.
But you understand.
The name of the game is scoring points. You know, winning both championships. There's only one pays money, and that's the constructors. So if you get a 1-2, great. If your guy, your golden boy, winds up winning the drivers' championship, so much the better.
Well, you know, you make a good point, Bob, and you're absolutely right from a money point of view. But Sergio says, you know, I'd like to talk afterwards because he's on 85 points. He's ahead of George Russell in the championship, who's 9 points behind him. You know, he's holding off. There's every reason for him to want to be. It would be nice if he had 95 points today, because then he would be only, you know, 10 off Leclerc. And I mean, you know, there's an argument there.
Yeah, look at the point standing.
Definitely.
Look at the point standing in drivers now. So it's 110. It's really tight. It's staggered all the way down. 110 for Verstappen, Leclerc 104, Perez 85, Russell 74, Sainz 65, Hamilton 46. When's the last time we've seen it that tight, that far down?
Yeah.
And it's linear all the way down. It's that little percentage progression all the way down.
Well, and I think
that many teams too.
Yeah.
And I think that's precisely, Sergio's comment. He summed up everything that Bob started out with. Is look at where I am, look at the deliveries, look at the team player attitude, look all the above, all summed up in we'll talk later.
It's a delicate one. I mean, I said to you boys during the race, I mean, Perez has now found a home. He didn't have a driver, if you remember. And now finally Red Bull have got the driver they wanted for that position, which is to help Verstappen win titles.
So look at constructors. Now, Red Bull moved ahead in both drivers and constructors. They've updated that. So it's now Red Bull 195, Ferrari 169, Mercedes 120. You remember how at the beginning of the year, Mercedes the porpoising was so bad. They looked so bad, but somehow they were hanging in there in points. Well, here they are. They're not close, but they're not near as far back as they could have been after the debacle of the beginning of the year.
Yeah. True.
Well, and you think about that. So it's 50 points, basically 49 points between them and Ferrari. So that's easily won over a couple of sets of podium finishes for the team. If Ferrari isn't there. And so, still definitely within reach. Championship, definitely still available.
Yeah, they have tamed the savage porpoise beast because that discussion how many times did you hear porpoising today? Almost none.
Yeah.
They finally, who'd have thunk it that it would take till the 6th race of the season to get this figured out? That's crazy.
Interesting. I'd love to know the aerodynamics behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to dig deeper into actually what was the magic bullet, that saved it.
It probably wasn't a magic bullet. It was a combination of, like everything else in Formula One, it was probably all the different things. That's probably why it took them so long. If it were one thing, they could have figured it out quicker. So, what about the rest of the grid here? So it's Verstappen, Perez, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Bottas, Ocon, Lando Norris. He had a quiet race. You hardly heard his name. And Alonso in 9th, Yuki Tsunoda, Vettel, Ricciardo, Gasly, Schumacher, Stroll, Latifi, Magnussen, Albon, and then Zhou Guanyu and Leclerc out. But, man, Leclerc was, what was his lead? Like 30 seconds when he went out?
Right. And, I think that says a lot. When things are going right for Leclerc, they're good. Don't spin during quali, don't spin in the race. But Leclerc is also another quality driver. He's finally got the drive he needs.
All right. Sounds like we got Chris Medland on the line. How's it going, Chris?
It's still hot. It's going well. I'm running around the paddock right now, seeing who fancies a chat. It's another busy one as well. I mean, I said Miami was crazy, which was great, but it's good to see that even more traditional places like Spain are very busy in the paddock with guests and people, and the F1's still exciting. I'm not sure everyone's delighted though, because there were, I say, more Ferrari fans here in terms of Carlos Sainz maybe, but they would have liked to see Leclerc win. And as you guys were just hinting at, that looks comfortable for him until he hit trouble.
And that's like I said, Leclerc now is in a car that he deserved, and I really like that. He's doing great. It's been coming around to his feel. I kind of feel like this year they made the tweaks that he needed for his driving style, and I think he's got I think he's up on the horse now.
Yeah, it's something we mentioned, didn't we, a couple of races ago, I think, where he said that in the past as well, because the car wasn't a race-winning car, the car, he had to take risks and push it to try and gain an extra spot on the grid or gain a couple more points. But now he's got a car that is consistently at the front. He doesn't have to overdrive as much. I think we did see yesterday that, okay, Red Bull are right there, so they do have to push pretty damn hard. But it's a little bit easier when you know that each week you show up and you've got a chance of winning a race. You don't have to overextend yourself. So he seems to be a lot more comfortable this year, but he'll be gutted today. I mean, he did nothing wrong, but that's cost him the championship lead. And what a turnaround in 3 races.
Yeah.
I mean, I think his advantage over Verstappen was something like 50 points after Australia. And now he's 6 points behind.
Hey, Chris, before you got on, we were running down the list of what we thought was 5 or 6 drivers that could at least be in the conversation for driver of the day, we left one off, guys. Bottas.
Yeah.
Bottas finished 6th on a 2-stop.
Yep.
I mean, that's how awesome today's race was, is that you can have that many people in consideration for that kind of drive. That's fantastic. What do you think of Bottas' drive, Chris?
Yeah, that was a strong one. I quite liked his radio message as well. Once he lost out 2 positions within 2 corners to cars on the 3-stop strategy, he was like, I think this might have been a mistake. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it was massively. I think if he'd have made the same strategy, then he'd have been in the same fight at the end of that.
Yeah.
And there's every chance he still would have finished 6th. So I don't think it cost him enormously. It probably cost him a better chance of keeping one of them behind. And he maybe would have been able to take advantage of Hamilton's problem on the final couple of laps if he'd have made that extra stop. But I mean, that's unforeseen stuff, isn't it? So I wouldn't beat myself up too much if I'm an Alfa Romeo strategist on that one.
Yeah.
But they were quick today. There was a spell where you just wondered if Bottas was in the mix for a podium. Certainly when it looked like it's him versus George out on track, that would have been tasty. But
tasty, I like that. Looking down the grid, Jonathan, what else comes to mind?
Just what might have been for Haas. It's a real disappointment.
We're losing you, Chris.
He's gone Dalek.
You're dropping Wi-Fi. You need to find the Pirelli Wi-Fi again.
Yeah, you've lost the address. You're dragging, mate.
Go over a curb. Hit a curb. Wasn't that a weird radio message?
I know. I mean, talk about all the technology in the world, and it's like, hey, if you could just hit the curb, we might be able to shake it loose.
Yeah. Bang on it. Hit it.
Yeah,
if in doubt, hit it with a hammer.
I was expecting, like you thought, Jonathan, during the race when Verstappen came in for a pit stop, that the mechanics would be grabbing the DRS, wing and yanking it up and down, trying to fix it.
Yeah. Oh well.
But Les, haven't you and I been there when we're trying to repair a car?
Yesterday?
Well, yeah, yesterday. But speaking of yesterday, so Max Verstappen had DRS issues,
right?
And they obviously replaced parts, right? And then here they are with the same issue. So it happens all the time, even at the highest level, right? You replace a part and it still didn't fix it,
right? And it was just one of those things that we generally, I will say, okay, the obvious thing is yes, DRS is definitely mechanical, the aero version of that, but there's still the electronic part of it. There's the button, there's whatever control board's behind it, probably some relays, all those kind of things. Max, hitting the button 14 times does not make the elevator move faster.
It's true.
And so, yeah, I laughed at that comment that,
You could just see him hitting the button over and over.
I've hit it 50 times. He goes, well, just do the once.
Yeah, just hit it one time.
Petulance.
Do we think you guys?
Back.
Go ahead, Chris.
With me again.
Yeah, we got you.
There we go. I was going to say, actually, I thought the message to Max was basically warning him that he was trying to press the DRS button when he was on a curb. But I'm going to change the subject because I've got Mario Isola here and he's really scared that I've stopped him. But Mario, you and I spoke yesterday about strategies, and we thought pretty much everyone would probably start on the medium tyre in this heat and the fact that soft wouldn't go so long. So when the tyre covers came off on the grid and there's only Lewis Hamilton on mediums and everyone's on softs, how surprised were you?
Yeah, that's interesting to understand because we heard some rumors in the paddock when Charles said during the press conference that he decided to keep one set of soft new, maybe to start the race, and probably people started to consider this option. And it was a surprise to see that only Lewis was on the medium, honestly, because we know that the soft is much quicker than the medium. Probably they wanted to keep the position and targeting 2 to 3 stops, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, was it a bit of a shame that we didn't get to see Lewis Cadan on those mediums at the start because he was the one that was different?
Yeah, of course. And we had also Magnussen that tried one set of hard. And to be honest, the pace was not too bad because it was comparable to the pace of Mick, for example, or other cars. So difficult to understand why they decided not to use the hard and to increase the number of stops. Usually they do the opposite.
Is it partly maybe because of these new cars and that, we could see that, I mean, DRS wasn't too difficult today. It made overtaking possible into turn one.
Yeah, but we have seen in other races that overtaking is possible, is easier than in the past. So also with the simulation tools used by the teams, they consider how difficult it is to overtake, and the strategy is coming also considering this element. As you said, probably here they were considering that overtaking was possible, and maybe using soft and medium was the safest choice in terms of pushing for short stints and keeping the position.
And is it races like this where no one knows what the best strategy is that make for good races?
I think so. When you have a bit of unpredictability, it's always better. And so happy to see that we had a 3-stop race with drivers fighting on a circuit that is not very famous for action on track and overtaking. So the new cars and the new tires are working well.
Yeah, it was great to watch. Mario, thank you. I'll let you get out of the sun because it is roasting hot here. I tell you, I'm stood facing it right there and I am cooking. So I'm going to try and find some shade. And Matteo Binotto is just doing an interview nearby. I might try and grab him in a second because that's been a tough day for Ferrari, hasn't it? The car looked quick and then to not even get a car on podium at the end of it. That's going to sting.
Well, and to lose the lead in both constructors and drivers, that's not a good day.
Chris?
No, well, like you say, Red Bull's points haul over the last 3 races is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell you what, let's try and get Esteban Ocon, who is probably not going to want to talk to me, but I'm just going to doorstep him anyway because he's a nice guy. And he's always smiling. So if he wants to tell me to bugger off, he won't do it because he's just too polite. Here he is. Esteban, points today from when the car didn't look all that competitive earlier in the weekend. Look, where did the race pace come from?
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit unexpected, I have to say, but I'm so glad with the end result. I think today, the guys deserve to have both cars in the points because, we didn't really show the potential of the upgrades that we were bringing since, the beginning of the year. But in this race, we've made great moves on the first stint, 3 or 4 overtakes, and then we settle, in points position. So yeah, it feels like a victory today.
And what was your favorite overtake in that first stint?
Well, they were not that spectacular because they were actually, I'm not going to say easy, but they were DRS overtakes, because we were managing to have very good traction exiting last corner, and I could, go alongside before turn 1. So yeah, I would say the one on Danny was good and the one on Mick was good. But at the start with Lando, it was quite tight. That was nice as well.
And just finally, I mean, you've been in good form this season. I mean, you had a great comeback drive as well in Miami. Just how well do you think you're driving right now in this car?
I don't know. You tell me. I feel good. I feel like the guys are doing a good job around me of making me feel confident. And yeah, we should keep that going.
Oh, and also, how difficult was it physically? Because you've got a cool jacket on. Was it tough out there?
Yeah, it should be ice, but it's actually water now. So it's gone. It's finished. It was tough.
Well done today. Thank you for your time. Hey, Esteban Ocon, what a lovely man he is.
Isn't he?
He is. Hey,
Good
Chris,
boy.
we got to get a break in real quick. We're late for that. So the Speed City F1 post-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Stop today's most sophisticated cyber attacks at the office, the racetrack, and everywhere in between. Learn more at crowdstrike.com/XM. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, located at Speed Sports Racing Park in North Houston, is designed to teach driving skills at all levels. Alan Rudolph trained NASCAR Series Cup champion Chase Elliott in road course racing, and American F3 driver Jack Crawford, who we just had on the show. Jack's an up-and-coming pilot with ambitions of becoming a Formula One driver with Red Bull Racing. And this week in Barcelona, he had a tough qualifying race, finishing 9th, getting slowed down in the last sector by a car entering the track. But he took P2 in the sprint race.
Yeah.
And in the feature race, he finished P6 in a DRS train. And he's doing great. Jack's now 3rd in the championship points for F3. And whether you'd like to learn to race for fun or for competition, Alan and his instructors will teach the concepts and skills you need before you get behind the wheel and out on the track, where you'll experience the speed and the thrill of kart racing. Visit speedsportsracingpark.com. That's Speedsports with a Z for more information. All right, so we've still got Chris Medland out on the steamy, hot grid in Barcelona. Chris, any targets in sight there, my friend?
Oh, there's a couple. Whether they're going to talk to me or not, it's another matter. Got Toto Wolff in sight, but he's doing some TV interviews now. But Matteo Binotto might have a little chat with us. So hopefully we can find out what he knows about Charles Leclerc's failure. So just got to choose which one I want to hover around. which is never easy. I wish you could split yourself into two places at once. That would really help.
Chris, while you're hovering, what's your thoughts about Monaco? Who do you think on today's form will be favourite to dominate in Monaco?
I'm not sure we'll get a favourite to dominate. I think what's going to be really interesting with Monaco is these cars are not easy at low speed. They're much more awkward at low speed because of the way they generate their downforce and the weight of them and the weight of the wheels, with the visibility. So I think we're going to see slower lap times, like much slower at Monaco than we've had for a couple of years. But I think it's actually been made a bit tricky because I would have said that Ferrari probably with the package they had before here would have been the ones with the advantage. Like with the package they had initially, where they didn't quite have the top speed to match Red Bull, but they were better in corners, that you think would suit them. But Red Bull have clearly made progress. Ferrari have worked on what was, I guess, a weakness in a way of their top speed compared to Red Bull, and looked good here. So it's going to be between those two. But interestingly, I thought Mercedes seemed to be struggling most in the final sector for a spell of this weekend, and yet they seem to think they're going to be strong in Monaco. Lewis Hamilton was looking ahead to it the other day. So I think we could get a similar picture to what we've just had, which is good. That like if any one of those top three teams can get themselves in the mix with each other, and they're a factor. No one's just cruising by each other. So I right now I put my money on a three-way fight for pole.
Hey, somebody just commented on YouTube. TB12 said, rare to have a race without a safety car. We hadn't even brought that up. It is rare, isn't it?
Yes, good point. Very good point.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that didn't help Lewis. If you think of it that way. That really didn't help him at all. Charles Leclerc's just walking through, and I won't bother him actually because he does not look particularly happy, as you would expect.
Go for it.
But,
He's a professional.
I pick my times. He's a very, very professional. He's doing some photos with fans actually, but I think I'm going to get his team boss because his team boss will know more about it, and Charles is definitely looking to hide in the motorhome already. But Mattia is not too far away, so hopefully I'll grab him to see what they know about what went wrong. No safety car was something that didn't help Lewis Hamilton, which is why I actually felt really bad for him on that final lap when he had to give up the position to Sainz because the recovery drive he'd had was all based on the car's pace and his pace.
Yeah. I was just going to come on Leclerc. He's an interesting character, isn't he? Where he's very hard on himself, but like you said, he's very professional and clearly very fast. I don't know. He's one of the fascinating characters in Formula One right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, go on. You go ahead, John.
No, please do, Chris. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, he's putting a smile on it right now, trying to put a brave face on what today's done. But he's normally very quick to bounce back from these things. He's very honest when he makes a mistake. But he also doesn't seem to let it affect him. If we look at yesterday's qualifying, he admitted he made a mistake at the chicane, came out, just replicated the lap without the mistake. And to do that without anything in the bag, he technically was about to start P10 if he got it wrong again. There was a lot riding on that final lap, and it was a very, very impressive one. So he's got a good mentality, I think. I think he's able to judge himself very well and kind of know when to beat himself up and know when not to. And I think today he's just disappointed. He's not beating himself up because he did nothing wrong.
Yeah, and I would argue that Ferrari finally have two drivers with level heads that will help when the classic Latin flair and pressure and worry starts. Things flowing around. I think both those guys will keep their heads, and I think that's important for Ferrari because we've seen Ferrari implode. Vettel being the latest version, and I'm afraid he didn't deal with it very well either when things weren't going well. So I think you're right. Charles is the kind of guy that will just he's harder on himself than anybody else.
Well, he's got he's got big pressure coming up. He's going to his home race where he took pole last year, then crashed and couldn't start the race. So I'm sure he feels like, his hometown race in Monaco owes him one.
And he already had a spin last weekend. I was there.
And Jonathan, you're talking.
That's right. He got the crash out of his system.
Yeah. You were talking about that last year and this year. You're talking about how that emotion that just is kind of part of the DNA of Ferrari. But, I was watching something on YouTube and watching Bonotto and interview with him, and he is not that, the leader that they've had in the past. He is kind of a more calm, more thinking Ferrari leader than before. And I think that's showing in the whole team right now.
I watched Ducati for many, many years, motorcycle racing. It's a similar kind of attitude. And until Davide Todozzi got there, it too suffered from being a brilliant team, but sometimes
I'm going to interrupt you there. Sorry, John,
Go.
because I've got Mattia Binotto right here with me to talk about today's race. And Mattia, firstly, do you know what happened with he's just getting congratulated or commiserated, I guess, by Jos Verstappen. Do you know what happened with Charles' car yet?
No, not yet. Obviously, it's a power unit issue, but we need to bring back the power unit back to Maranello, and we'll disassemble it tomorrow morning, and let's try to understand.
And then with Carlos, was his spin just down to a gust of wind in the same way that Max went off?
We think so. Obviously, we'll have a clear look at the telemetry data, but apparently that's what happened. So quite unfortunate. Having said that, because then he damaged the car, he had some loss of aero performance, poor balance on the car, and then he had to fight for the entire race distance.
Well, then just finally, you had the pace, though. You did show it. I mean, do you leave here with at least optimism that the upgrades brought? You've got a very quick car still?
Certainly very positive, I think, because after 6 races, we can start assessing relative performance. I think we have been capable of doing a great car and as well to develop it with the first package. So the team is working well, and that keeps me optimistic.
Well, on to Monaco. Good luck there. Thank you, Mattia. There we go. Mattia Binotto was good enough to give us his thoughts. He's barely smiling, but he's trying. And yeah, Jos Verstappen was very polite there, just kind of saying hello to him basically and saying hard luck. So you could see, they know Charles did nothing wrong and lost that race, but Red Bull are definitely going to take it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good timing on that interview, by the way.
I'm going to say that summed up his level-headedness right there.
Exactly. Yeah. What else, Jonathan? I know that you were jumping up and down and enjoying this race.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's one of the best Spanish Grand Prix. I alluded to the Michael Schumacher one, which was just a bizarre incident back in 1994. Obviously, you had that an amazing time in 2016 when both Rosberg and Hamilton took each other out on the first lap. But as Spanish Grand Prix go, that was a doozy.
Yeah, you said it can be processional from time to time.
It can because it is such a strategy race. There's once you get past turn one and you get into the middle section in Barcelona, there's like turn 9, there's an up the inside move, but after that you've got to wait to the front straight again. So you can have a lot of kind of strategic races, but I do think the 2022 car is giving us a lot better racing. Outside overtakes, and lots of them. Really, really impressive.
Well, I mean,
what about that George Russell move as well on Max Verstappen when it came back at him? Like the ability to do that, to throw a car in like that. That was, back in the day that you just wouldn't have had a tire grip if you'd been trying to defend from someone to hold over on the outside like that. I thought that was really, really impressive and really exciting to watch.
Yeah, right before you got on, Chris, I was saying, watching Russell right now, it's like he is as fast. I'm clearly right now we say Verstappen, Leclerc, maybe Lando in that top conversation. But now that Russell's in this car, I mean, he is crazy fast and could be considered as good as anybody on the grid. Chris, do you agree?
Oh, yeah, I certainly do. I think one thing not to forget, if you look at the race pace of Hamilton from where he came from, like he seems to just be more settled. I think, the little gap at the moment between him and George is coming in qualifying trim when you've got to have the car right on the ultimate limit. Yeah. But when you just dial that back slightly and you can just leave a little bit more margin over a race distance, Hamilton's as quick, if not quicker, I think, than Russell. So that's a really exciting dynamic for Mercedes to have. I bet they're delighted with the way that's going. But I wasn't 100% certain of how it's going to go for George initially. I think because there was a lot of expectation on him, and I think sometimes it's unfair. It was the same with Checo when he joined Red Bull, and people just like change and say, "Oh, this is great. They're going to do so well." And it's very, very hard to do. So I was kind of reserving judgment for a bit to see how George was going to get on, and I'm very, very impressed with the way his season has started so far.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, let's take a quick break and let's from these messages, and then we'll be back with Chris on the grid right after this.
Hi, this is Karan Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
After the talk of espionage this weekend, it's a perfect time to hear from our sponsor, CrowdStrike. They present Driven in 60. Our digital world is more than just interconnected, it's interdependent. And because of that, security is a top concern for every organization. The Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team knows they're a potential target for a host of digital attacks, which is why they leverage the CrowdStrike Falcon platform to deploy end-to-end security solutions. CrowdStrike revolutionized cybersecurity by harnessing the speed and power of the cloud to identify and stop the most sophisticated cyber attacks. Our cloud-native Falcon platform protects and defends organizations against increasingly complex threats, so you can have the peace of mind to focus on your business momentum, not what's trying to stop it. That's protection that powers you. To learn more and to try CrowdStrike Falcon free today, visit crowdstrike.com/m. Chris, how's it going over there? You got a microphone in front of somebody yet?
Not quite in front of somebody, but I'm not complaining. I'm just waiting for Andreas Seidel to see if he'll speak to me, but it means I can stand in the shade, so I am more than happy to wait.
There you go. Hey, Jonathan, you mentioned that, well, first, the comments of processional at this track, but you also have been there enough times through the motorcycle world that probably is a contributor to it. Is that right?
Yeah, partly. I mean, the design of the circuit was originally, they've had to change it a few times as well. But, there's not many tracks in the world that are designed specifically, I say specifically for bikes, but it was a bike-mad country, not a Formula One country, until Alonso came along, really. So it was known as a motorcycle track. And that could be a reason, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the aspects that make it interesting for a motorcycle, the tighter curves, things like that.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily translate to four wheels.
Nope, absolutely right.
Hey, Jonathan, while Chris is waiting, we got to talk about all the Americans and how they've done this weekend.
It's been awesome.
I mean, you talked about Jack Crawford a little bit, but you've got all those compiled, don't you?
Yeah, well, I can certainly tell you that, all of them had good weekends, all of them in the top 10. And Jack Crawford being...
And I'm rudely
Go ahead.
going to interrupt that summary to very, very quickly ask Andreas Seidel two questions then, if I can. Sorry, he's having a conversation in German right now. We're going to be very quick with him, but I've got two quick questions for him. So someone else is trying to line him up. This is the life of a team boss after a race.
Yeah, he's in demand.
He's very much in demand. But the two quick questions I have is one, how's Lando feeling? Because I know he's having a health check now, having not been well.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, he didn't feel well all weekend, so a tough weekend for him, but he was battling it through, so can't thank him enough for the fighting spirit he has shown, scoring 4 important points for us today. Obviously, he's not feeling great now after this tough race in these conditions, but we have very good medical support here in place as well, so it's important now that he gets a good rest the next 4 days, and then we go again.
And he brought home points for you. He looked competitive. How did the race go from your point of view? Did you get everything out of it you think you could?
Yeah, I think on Lando's side, we pretty much maximized everything. I think which was in our hands today. For sure, lost a bit probably with Lando not being at 100%. So I'm happy with that. Could also see that we made a good step forward with the new package. At the same time, we have to accept the competition is trying as hard as we do as well. On Daniel's side, we need to understand what happened there because somehow he couldn't go the pace whenever we tried to push more. Lap times were going up, and that's obviously disappointing, but that's something we need to understand.
Okay, well, Andreas, thank you very much for your time. He gave you that, more than that minute, I think, that he had left before he needed to head off anywhere. So he's already been grabbed by one of the PRs that actually just come out in a absolute frenzy going, you're meant to be somewhere else. So anyway, we'll run down and see if we can find anyone down at Haas to talk about tough day, because we were talking them up on the grid, weren't we? And we were hopeful it was going to be a good one. And sadly, it didn't seem to quite come together.
Yeah, Gunther, he'll give you even after a tough day, he'll give you some words if you can catch him. But
he'll give you a quote. Are you kidding?
Yeah. I want to go back to Andreas Seidel, head of McLaren, because he's one of the younger team principals, isn't he, Chris? Isn't he like in his early 40s or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a really down-to-earth guy, very engaging, very honest, likes to chat to people, whether it's on or off record. Obviously a huge motorsport fan. And I think for him, it was a bit of a dream to get that move, to step across from having been in motorsport, but not in Formula One for a while, at least, to come into the McLaren role. So he was always positive at that point. The team's been on an upward trajectory, and maybe it's plateauing right now, but things got shaken up this year. And there's times that McLaren look very good, and there's other times they don't look quite so good. But he's been doing a very good job, and he's got a good team around him, the likes of Andreas Stella, James Key in there as well. They're a fairly youthful outfit in that sense, and it seems to be working well for them.
Jonathan, you got interrupted. And Chris, if we got time to run down that American list again real quick before you hit the Haas team?
Go for it.
All right, we'll see how it works.
Yeah, no, you jump in when you do. But no, I want to point out that Logan Sargent's now 6th in the championship, a 4th place in the feature race. You mentioned Jack Crawford, 3rd in the championship in FIA F3. But Frederick's career all going well at the moment. And having a good weekend this weekend, but they are very much in the hunt. And obviously, we're keeping very close eyes on 6th place in the championship. And he's on 36, equal with Marcus Armstrong, and 1 behind Lawson. And so just another good result for Sargent, and he could be vying for the top 3 in F2.
Yeah, Bob Varsha, what do you think about, we've got all these Americans, and any of those that you've been watching closely?
I can't say I've been watching them closely because they're hard to find here other than on the internet. But I'm delighted that so many young Americans are out there trying to do the traditional way of moving up to Formula One through the European ladder system, if you will, the junior leagues, as opposed to what Colton Herta is trying to do, which is to jump right from America's top open wheel series to the world's top open wheel series. And, I think it's great. I did an interview with a New York Times writer earlier this week who wondered whether Formula One's enormous explosive popularity increase hurts IndyCar in any way. I said, no, I think, the two things are mutually beneficial because it calls further attention to motorsports in all of its forms. And it gives these young drivers opportunities. Formula One is the toughest series to crack right now simply because there aren't that many open seats that ever come up. IndyCar is a bit more flexible with some resources. You can find a place with a team. And if you do really well, then, you can impress the Formula One powers that be if that's what you want to do. So, really glad to see these young racers go over there and, do it the old fashioned way, go race against the young Europeans and Asians and young aspiring drivers from everywhere.
Hey, Jonathan, who was it? Alex Palou that we caught up with at Miami.
We spoke to Pato O'Ward.
Oh, there was Pato.
And we spoke to Callum Ilott.
But Pato said he disagreed.
Disagreed with that. Yeah.
He was like, no. He said that IndyCar needs to step up their game.
What he meant was because of Miami, IndyCar now needed to look at what they're doing, and the celebrity was there. Formula One had arrived, and he was saying Indy need to step up their game because the competition has arrived on their shores, our shores.
Yeah, well, not only because of but he was referring to Miami and Netflix and the Drive to Survive. Yeah. So he was saying that that's a problem.
Well, and I'm not sure if he was the one, but one of the drivers had mentioned that if you look at things, really the big news about IndyCar all happens in May. And then it struggles for attention again the rest of the season.
That is the problem.
And, I'm not sure how to change that. Could having events, doing a lot more publicity, doing, Drive to Survive style of show, I think that's a definite item they ought to look at is more kind of real behind the scenes access for customers.
Didn't I see something that IndyCar has engaged a company to do a Drive to Survive type?
Yeah.
I think I saw that. Yeah. I think that there was some news about it this week, like they've either signed a contract or something. So everybody's going to do it.
Maybe they were listening.
Yeah.
Well, Zach Brown's going to be in Indy, so he's voted where he's going.
Yeah.
There you go.
One of my big bugbears about this F1 schedule right now is the fact that both Indy qualifying weekend and Indy race weekend clash with F1 races.
Yeah.
It was always great to kind of be able to cross over a little bit and do both in some way, shape, or form. As much as, let's be honest, what a day of racing the 500 and the Monaco Grand Prix are together. But I just wanted to mention, you guys were talking about the young drivers. In the F3 race yesterday, in the first F3 race, there was a great spell, and sadly it was 5:30 a.m. on the East Coast. But there was a great spell in that race where you had Jack was up in second place, Jack Crawford. Juan Manuel Correa was in third, and Kalen Frederick was fourth.
Wow.
And it looked like there was a chance of, for a split second, a clean sweep of the podium for the Americans. But sadly, two of those faded. I mean, Juan Manuel Correa is still recovering from injury after, I think it was a broken metatarsal, wasn't it, he had? So he's still not 100% fitness. So he did fade, and Kalen faded a bit too with his tyres, I believe. But Jack got that good result. But I remember watching that thinking it's a shame it's so early, because America should be tuning in just to see their young guns going really well right now. And yeah, they've had a good weekend here.
Yeah, and add the Fittipaldis to it as well.
The who's? The Fittipaldis?
Yeah. The Fittipaldis. The Fittipaldis.
Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
Well, I should probably clarify. So I'm not disagreeing with Pato O'Ward's view. I'm not saying that Formula One and IndyCar are equivalent, because they're not. Formula One is a globe-trotting series with 400 million viewers and $2 billion in combined revenues, whereas IndyCar is a domestic American championship, but it's the highest level of open wheel racing in the United States. So I think there's, there can be some healthy interchange there. If Pato wants to come up with a strategy to make it the equivalent of Formula One, good luck with that. I don't think you can do it.
I'd like to hear Chris's view from what the other journalists have now said about Miami. Obviously, we got your view, but what, is it a win or a lose?
Chris, I want to save that for after the break. We're going to tease that because we do need to get a break in and hear what Chris has to say after this. Listen to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hello to everyone. This is Gunther Steiner. This is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
Jonathan, you had a question for Chris Medland.
I did, yeah. Obviously, the dust has settled now on Miami, and I just wondered what the journos and the international media were saying about their experience in the USA at a brand new Grand Prix.
It was pretty overwhelmingly positive. It was a tiring weekend for everyone, but that was because it was so exciting, because it was so busy. There was so much to do. There was so much going on there. We had so much to cover. You're always finding your feet as well with where you can go, what you can do. But yeah, it was very, very positive. In fact, any negativity came from people that weren't there because they were jealous of everything. So yeah, we had quite a few of the journos that didn't make it out there for various reasons. Some had COVID, some had visa issues. In terms of, well, basically, one colleague, his passport never came back from the UK passport office, so he just couldn't travel, which really annoyed him once he saw how good it was. But yeah, very positive. And I think, to be honest with you, coming here this weekend and having kind of logistical issues around this race in terms of the traffic, like they were not set up at this Grand Prix to handle the number of fans that came. They cut corners. So there weren't enough people directing traffic, marshalling things, organizing things, sorting out schedules and looking after the food kiosks and the drink kiosks. People were unable to get water, and it's been, like we said, nearly 100 Fahrenheit. I think we touched that during the race. I saw it at 37.1 Celsius at one stage, so it must have been about that. And people are out in the sun this whole time. There was a lot that was because there weren't enough people here to run the show, basically. And that then made you think, crikey, they got it right in Miami. Even though there were teething issues, they're understandable when it's your first race. This was not the first race we've had in Spain. So as much as the action on track was great, and I think the fans loved the 2 hours of racing they got, I fear for them trying to get out right now. And I can see traffic jams wherever I look, actually. From even the paddock, you can see a few of the exit roads, and they are solid. So yeah, there's a lot to be said, actually, for how well Miami did with the first event. And yeah, the media were very impressed. They'll be critical if it goes wrong, or when things are a bit silly, like the fake marina. That still got brought up by anyone who wasn't there. But that's about the biggest bit of criticism there was, I think.
I think that'll change.
Yeah, if that's their biggest complaint. But Bob, you heard of a little bit of some of those teething pains, didn't you? I mean, look, it's not going to be perfect. It's too big of an event.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the day Disneyland opened, everything did not go smoothly. And they realized that they needed to look hard at what could make it better. And I think we'll see the same thing here. I'm not privy to all the details of the finances and so forth. They spent an awful lot of money and charged an awful lot of money. And that, I think, got up a lot of people's nose. I think they tried to do a big event like that in a different way, maybe the American way, by hiring subcontractors to handle certain parts of the ticket buyer's experience. And those did not always go well. I think they may have also hired from the local community to try to be a good neighbor, and that didn't always go so well. But as Chris was saying, it was a first-time event. It was enormously ambitious. And I think, it'll get better and better. We're not going to have a former first lady in her motorcade holding up traffic, and hopefully come up with more spectator access. One friend of mine from Atlanta who spent an awful lot of money to go to Miami, he said he had to walk almost all the way around the track before he could find a gate where he and his friends could go in based on the tickets they had. And I think there probably ought to be some thought given to adjusting those ticket prices to make it, something that a more modestly resourced fan, should we say, can go, especially the young people, those Gen Zers who've now been all fired up by Drive to Survive, and they want to go see a Formula One race. They don't want to be told it's going to cost you $3,000 to get into the place.
No.
I like that. That's a new phrase, modestly resourced. But Bob, you had, I'm going to segue into something that you put in our document, our show doc, and that's about New York. I thought that was an interesting story.
Yeah, that new New York mayor, new at the time, Eric Adams offered the Randall's Island, which is a large kind of recreation area. There's a track that used to hold a lot of very high class track and field meets. There's tennis courts and all this. There's a big open space where Eric Adams said, hey, why don't you go have a Formula One race here? Personally, there's two places that I thought could hold a Formula One race. One is Flushing Meadows, where the old 1964 World's Fair took place with the big globe and whatnot that we're all familiar with from Men in Black. And also there is an unused, and here we're getting a page from the British way of going road racing. There's a decommissioned Coast Guard airfield called Floyd Bennett Field, which is on the south side of Long Island, within spitting distance of JFK International Airport, and all of these concrete runways. I mean, this place is just begging to be transformed into something useful. And it also has transportation links to the city and beautiful backgrounds, all that kind of thing. So, if New York wants to have a race, there's lots of obstacles, but if they can be overcome, I think there's plenty of places where New York could put on a good show.
Hey, Chris, you still down near the hospitality?
I am, yeah. I'm dancing, trying to make sure that I don't trip over Kevin Magnussen's daughter at the moment, who's cutely running around at the moment, because I've been told by a very reputable journalist, Jonas Hüttel from Extra Bladet, who is a Danish journalist, just giving him a plug, because he's made sure I hang around. He says Kevin and Gunther are just having a chat after engineering, so they should be out in a second. So I'm hoping that I can grab at least one of those. Before I do, Pietro Fittipaldi's just wandered out. So I might just say hello to Pietro and see, from his point of view, having joined us on the show midweek, he's been here trying to stay cool. And it was a pretty solid weekend for your brother, Enzo. But let's talk Haas first. Do you know what went wrong? You've just come out of engineering, I imagine, and have heard the debriefs.
No, I mean, obviously the first lap incident didn't help, with Kevin, because then you're completely offset. You have a gap of, 40, 50 seconds to the car ahead. So you're waiting for a safety car, something to happen to try to help that, but it didn't come. And then, we went, on a 2-stop strategy. And, I think Alfa Romeo did it as well. And Vettel did it, but the other cars did a 3-stop strategy. And maybe for a car that would have been better. But it's, it's easy to say now after the race. So I think difficult because I'm sure there was potential there to finish on the points. And just, it's a bit frustrating for, the whole team. So definitely need a good weekend in Monaco.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing how the team bounces back. But I'll quickly then end on a more positive note. Enzo had a good drive, certainly today, and a good weekend.
Yeah, really good. I mean, he finished second in Imola and then carried that momentum into here. He was super, like half a tenth off getting reverse grid pole in the first race yesterday, but he started 11th, finished 8th. And then today started 11th and finished 6th and had really good pace. The team executed really well as well with the strategy and pit stops. And let's hope that he can keep this up because I think, he's a rookie this year. And I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, he really is. It was a good drive today. Thank you very much for your time, Pietro. He was going to go and get into the shade again. I'm still cooking. But yeah, I thought I'd ask a few bits. I imagine he's probably briefed not to just stroll out and tell me everything that was said in the debrief. So that was probably quite polite that he even stopped. But we're still waiting. So clearly a pretty long conversation going on between Gunther Steiner and Kevin Magnussen at the moment. So I don't know if it's about anything specific to the race or to a bigger picture, or it could be something that's nothing to do with Formula One at all. But knowing that Gunther wants to escape pretty quickly tonight, it must be pretty important.
Hey, Chris, you talked about Pietro on the Wednesday show, and he was so wasn't it fantastic to have him for the full hour of the show? I really that insight that he gave us was fantastic.
Yeah, he's a really, really good talker, really good at explaining things. I won't compliment him too much because he just walked by again so you can hear it. No, genuinely, he's very, very good. And he was very honest and open and gave us opinions on pretty much everything. So, yeah, it was one of those where it was a big help for him to join us. We have some movement now with Haas team members in travel kit, so they are ready to go. Like I said, they want to get out of here pretty quickly. And I am just going to try and see who's coming through. Because how long have we got till we're going off air?
We're down to 2 minutes. We're almost out.
Yeah, we might be beaten by this one, but if we are, then I'll try and grab someone for the midweek show, like you said. So when we record pre-Monaco, we can tell everyone what went wrong with us.
Yeah, and what Chris is talking about is on SiriusXM on the same channel, ESPN 81. We do a show Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern called Wheel to Wheel. And if you got SiriusXM, you can go listen to it on demand as well. But Pietro was really great. And I absolutely love the relationship that he and his brother have.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've sat down with them together before. They're what a great
And like
team.
I've said it before, history repeating itself, Wilson and Emerson,
Yeah, that's very true. Well, guys, we are almost out of time. Any final thoughts on today's race?
Great Spanish Grand Prix. What a season.
Yeah, what a season.
Yeah.
Definitely not predictable.
Yeah. You agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was a fun race. On to Monaco.
That's right. On to Monaco. That's a nice way to wrap this up and
fair sailing.
Yeah. Okay. So you say on to Monaco. Any predictions? Early predictions, Bob?
Yep. I'm going to arrive on a cruise ship and I'm going to have a great time all weekend.
That's the best prediction I've heard.
That is a fantastic prediction. Chris Medland, thanks, buddy. We appreciate you hunting everybody down for us today. It was fantastic.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go and find some after sun and try and make sure I've cooled down by the time we're back on air in Monaco.
Go hydrate, my friend.
There you go. Travel safe, y'all.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Of course, if you want to follow us on social media, go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com, because we got lots of good information up there. Thanks, everybody, who tuned in on YouTube and Facebook today, and we'll talk to you next Sunday.
Happy trails.
Cheers.